Barakallahu feek.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين ما بعد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. Everyone, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum to all the students, mashallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you all and accept from you all. It's a really wonderful effort from your masjid, mashallah, Brother Abdul Qadir, and all the other shuyukh in the community, mashallah. May Allah accept from all of you. I'm speaking to you from Burlington Masjid. I hope one day we all get to meet in person, inshallah. Allah make it easy for you all. So the section that we were given was the section about men and women around the messenger. Rijalun wa nisa'un hawla rasul alayhi salatu wassalam. This is on page 51 for myself, and it's page 49 for the book that has two parts, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay, good. Okay. So as you can see, one of the most important parts about our deen is the study or the understanding about Sahaba, okay, who are the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, both men and women. Each one had a very important role in Islam. They are the narrators of hadith, which are the sayings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They narrate the deen, Islam, how to practice Islam, our fiqh. In terms of Quran, who taught us the Quran? The Sahaba radiallahu anhum, right? They are the ones that teach us all these important things of Islam. And so they're really big names, really amazing people, really extraordinary people from both men and women. And I want you all to think about while we study them and we experience a portion of their lives, is that how can I myself, inshallah ta'ala, follow in their footsteps? They were such people that, when did they live? How many years ago did they live? Can someone give me like a rough estimate?
Yeah. How long ago do you think the Sahaba lived? Does anyone know? Do you know how long ago Sahaba lived? Do you know how long ago?
1400.
I'll give you a hint. 1400, that's right, mashallah. Okay, good. I was gonna say, just, we're just, what Islamic year are we in, right? You'd figure it out. That's exactly right. So 1400 years ago, these people have lived, yet we're still speaking about them today. We name our kids Abu Bakr, we name our kids Umar, we name them Uthman, Ali, we call them Fatima, we call them Aisha. Maybe some of your names are this, We name them these names because they're so important to us. And so we value them and cherish them. So I want you all to think about your own lives. When you study Sahaba, the goal should be about, when we study Sahaba, saying, Ya Allah, how can I live a life that's so fulfilling and so pleasing to you that I'm also remembered like they are remembered? That's the goal here. So keep that in mind. You might want to become a person who gives so much sadaqah. You just want to bang out the sadaqah, mashallah. You're just so good at giving money in the path of Allah Ta'ala. Or maybe you want to be an amazing teacher. Maybe you want to help the community in other ways. You figure it out for yourself. But the main thing is when we study their lives, we start to think about how I can be like a sahabi, a companion of the Prophet ﷺ, like they were, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? Is that clear for everybody?
Yes.
You can respond. You say yes, inshallah. It's halal. I give you fatwa. Okay? No problem. Okay, so the beginning part of the book. So today, since it's kind of like a semi-introduction from my side, I know you started last week, but there are not many questions to go over every class. And the first part, as you can see, there's lots of names, right? And so if you're not already used to the names, it kind of is overwhelming to learn a bunch of names. I find it really funny how kids, like, they can memorize so many like stats for basketball and football and everything. But when you ask them, can you remember 4 names of 4 Sahaba, they start bugging out like they can't do it. And I'm like, man, come on, relax. Okay. So mashallah, I want you all to make this, I'll quiz everybody next week. Okay. We're going to have 4 names today. We're going to study 10 names right after that. I'm going to test you guys on these first 4 names. Okay. On this first page that you see. Okay, so I will get to it. Just getting you guys mentally ready. All right. The first part has about 50 something questions, and the next part, which is about the female companions of the Prophet ﷺ, has I think, was it like 16 or so questions. So total, we're going to study about 66 questions. I saw there was a midterm, something like that. Is that correct? Some type of a competition.
Yes.
You all are going to make me proud. Okay, you all are going to make me proud. I'm going to be so happy because you guys are going to get number 1 and whatever the exam is. I'm going to be so happy, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, so you guys got to make that for me, all right? Can you guys do that for me, inshallah?
Yes.
Inshallah, for the sake of Allah. Okay, but like, if you guys get first, I'll be so happy, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, so we'll study the first part here. The first question is, would anyone like to read? Nobody like to read?
I'm gonna assign Sheikh. Sheikh, I'm gonna assign somebody to read it, inshallah ta'ala.
Inshallah.
Okay, go ahead. Who wants to read online? One of you online is gonna read. Okay, so I'm gonna ask the first person, inshallah ta'ala, to read. First person would be Hamida Olu. Hamida, read the first question and the answer. There you go. Yeah, she's probably shy. So
Okay, it's fine. I can read then. If it's fine, I don't mind reading.
I'm gonna make another student. Hamid, please, speak 49 on the other side. First question.
Who are rightly guided caliphs? The answer: the rightly guided caliphs are Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, may Allah be pleased with him, Umar ibn Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, Uthman ibn Affan,
Uthman ibn Affan. Uthman ibn Affan.
Uthman ibn Affan, may Allah be pleased with him, Ali ibn Talib,
Ali ibn Abi
Ali ibn Talib, may Allah be pleased.
Yes, very good, mashallah. What's the Arabic term? So just a couple of things here before we move to the next question. These are the 4 names, by the way, you have to memorize, inshallah. Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali. Can everyone say it with me together? Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali. Very good. One more time. Abu Bakr, Umar,
Abu Bakr, Umar,
Uthman, Ali.
Uthman, and Ali.
Come on, guys. You guys are so weak from the quarantine. Relax. Come on, breathe, inshallah. Deep breaths, mashallah. You can take Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali. MashaAllah, very good. So work on that, and again, we'll test everyone very briefly in the beginning of class next time, just to check for these 4 names. There's 10 names next one, okay? And I'll tell you something funny about it when we get there. But okay, so may Allah be pleased with them. How do we say that in Arabic? Can anyone tell me how we say that in Arabic? Does anyone know?
Radiallahu anhu.
Perfect, mashallah. That's exactly right. Radiallahu anhu. And so we want to say that after their names as a hope of making dua for them, that maybe Allah will accept it from us, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? And so that's the goal here, that when we make dua for them, we also hope that Allah give it to us as well, that we become those who Allah ta'ala are pleased with. This word Caliph, what does Caliph mean?
What does Caliph mean? Khalifa. What does it mean?
It means ruler.
Ruler. It works. They're the ruler of what?
The ruler of Islam.
Of the Muslims of the time. And yeah, that works. That's okay for us to understand the idea behind it. The Khalifa is someone who's a representative. You got to remember this, because being a ruler per se, it's not a really praiseworthy thing in Islam. Rather, they are representative. They take the place of the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu salam. They take the responsibility of the ummah after him. Okay, the entire Muslim nation, basically, they take responsibility, because we believe a leader is a servant. Right? A leader should be someone who serves the people, not someone who's served by the people. Right? Unfortunately, we had like 4 years of a guy who his entire presidency was that I just got to be a person who's on TV all the time and people have to serve me. And you can see how bad things get when people are just trying to be served. But as someone who serves, who takes care of people, that's what we're looking for in life. So these are 4 amazing people that managed to do that. And they were people right after the Prophet ﷺ. The first one's Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. We're going to speak about each one in detail. Don't worry about it. First one's Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Second one is Umar radiallahu anhu. Third one's Uthman radiallahu anhu. And right after him comes Ali radiallahu anhu. Okay? They are the greatest people in Islam after the prophets. They are the greatest people in Islam after the prophets. You have to remember that. When we talk about Sahaba, we are considering them in terms of all human beings. Everyone you know, every billionaire, every whatever gajillionaire, whatever guy you know in life, no one is greater than these people. They are the greatest after the prophets. Okay? And you think like, what's so great about them? You have to read about them. You have to study them and see what amazing things they've done. They're extraordinary people, each one of them. Okay? But we'll get into each one, inshallah. There's some details about each one. So one more time, what are the names? Can everyone just quickly say it out loud?
Say it out loud, guys.
Abu Bakr,
Abu Bakr,
Umar,
Umar, Uthman, Ali. These are the four.
Perfect. MashaAllah. Barakallahu feekum. May Allah bless you all. Okay, let's do the next question now.
Next
Can we-
is I'm going to give a girl, and it would be Nasiha.
Who are the 10 who are given the God tidings of entire paradise? The 10 who are given God tidings of entire paradise are the water of the death, may Allah be pleased with them, and the Ibn al-Kitab, may Allah be pleased. Osman ibn Affan, may Allah be pleased with him. Ali ibn al-Kitab, Ali Talib, may Allah be pleased with him. Salah ibn Ubaydillah, may Allah be pleased with him. Sa'd ibn Abu Waqqas, may Allah be pleased with him. Zubair ibn al-Awam, may Allah be pleased with him. Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, may Allah be pleased with him. Auf, may Allah be pleased with him. Abu Ubayd ibn al-Jarrah, may Allah be pleased with him. Sayyid ibn Zayd, may Allah be pleased with him.
That's very good. Excellent job.
MashaAllah. Those are the Ashara al-Mubashirin.
Wonderful job. MashaAllah. So these 10 names are the 10 Sahaba who are promised Jannah. Okay, what that means is in one hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, in one of his sayings, he mentions all 10 of them by name. Okay, he mentions all 10 of them by name. So they're very important Sahaba again. They're very important companions of the Prophet ﷺ. But we have to, and so the book will explain about each one too, like I told you. So don't worry about it right now. Right now, they're just names on a paper, but inshallah, they'll become actual humans. We'll talk about how they lived when we get to those sections, inshallah. Okay. But for now, look at the names and think about them. As you can see, the first 4 are the ones right from the previous hadith, the previous question, right? So we're going to try to memorize the next 6 names as well. We're going to learn them as well. Okay. So that way we have our full team of Sahaba that we really want to study about. And there's so many more, and you'll learn so many amazing people at the same time. Very good. Let's get the next question now.
So next question, I'm going to give one of the young kids who are online. I'm going to give Muhammad Ali. Muhammad, you have to go on your book. I think it's page 52. And question number 3.
All right. What is the name of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq? May Allah be pleased with him. The answer is his name is Abdullah ibn Abdi Kuhafa.
Perfect.
The
mashallah.
name of Abdu Kuhafa is Uthman.
Very good, mashallah. So obviously, you know, like Arab names, they say like son of a person, father of so-and-so. That's basically how the names are. So that was a really good job, mashallah, reading it. So we usually call him Abu Bakr, right? That's his title, okay? Father of Bakr, that's literally what it translates to, right? His actual name is Abdullah. His actual name is Abdullah, right? And his father's name is, it says Ibn Abi Quhafa, means son of Abu Quhafa. You can write it in your book if you're allowed to write in your book, or if you want, you can just take it on a note on the side. His father's name, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu's father's name was Abu Quhafa, okay? And Abu Quhafa's real name was Uthman, okay? So it's a little complicated. I'll make it really simple for you, okay? Abu Bakr's name is really Abdullah. Abu Quhafa's name is really Uthman, okay? Abu Bakr is the son of Abu Quhafa, right? So he's Abdullah, son of Uthman. That's basically what that translates to, okay? So keep that in mind. That's just from his name. It's important to study. Again, we're going to call him who? Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. So don't pay attention too much to it. It's a good thing to learn though, of course. Okay, that's good. Next question.
Next question is for Ayan. Question number 4.
Who was the first to accept Islam among men? He was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, may Allah be pleased with him.
Perfect, mashallah. Good job. So the first person to accept Islam, who was the first person? The first man we just heard was Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. That's really important. But who was the first person to accept Islam? Does anyone know? No.
Okay,
One
the
second.
first person to
Sorry,
accept
it's
Islam
family.
from among men, right?
No, just in general.
In general.
Does anyone know?
So in general, who's the first person who accepted Islam? Abdurrahman wants to answer, sure.
Go ahead. Who? Could you say a little louder? I didn't hear the answer. I'm sorry. Khadija. The wife of the Prophet, right? Yes. Khadija radiallahu anha was the first person to accept Islam. So a sister, a woman is the first person to accept Islam. Okay, thereafter the Prophet ﷺ goes out, and when he goes announces that he's a messenger of Allah, he tells his best friend at the time, who's Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. This is the man that the Prophet ﷺ grew up with, the one who loved him, like in terms of his friends. This is his closest friend from everyone. And so Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu gets the message that the Prophet ﷺ says, I'm a messenger of Allah. I came with this message. And the Prophet ﷺ said, he himself says it. The Prophet ﷺ says that everyone that I gave Islam to, they had some hesitation. They had some hesitation. He said the only one who did not hesitate was Abu Bakr. As soon as I told him that I'm a messenger of Allah, Abu Bakr immediately accepted this. Okay, so Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was an extraordinary individual. After Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu accepts Islam, keep this in mind. After the Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu accepts Islam, he goes out the same day. He gives da'wah. He invites 6 more people. They come and they take Islam on the hands of the Prophet ﷺ. The next day he brings 3 more people. All these names you saw right before you in this previous hadith here, majority of them are because Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he actually gave da'wah to them. He invited them to Islam. They came in right away. This is such an amazing individual. The first day he accepts Islam, he's already ready to give da'wah. He invites everyone to Islam as well. So now this is Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, the first man, and he brings so many people with him. Let's keep going. The next one here. So that's one amazing quality about him. He's the first person to accept Islam. What's another amazing quality? And question number 5. Can we get someone else to read?
Okay, I'm gonna call up some of the people online to add. Go ahead for question number 5.
Did you say me?
Question number 5.
Okay. It was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, may Allah be pleased.
Oh, could you read the question? Sorry.
Who accompanied the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his hijrah from Mecca to Medina? It was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, may Allah be pleased with him.
What does hijrah mean? That's very good, mashallah. What does hijrah mean? Does anyone know?
It was like it's like a pilgrimage.
It's close. What do you normally? Sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna ask the people who are here in the masjid. Do you guys know what hijrah means? What is hijrah? Huh? What kind of travel? No. Yeah, explain to them. A lot of the kids here don't know what
That's fine. That's completely fine, and I'm totally okay with it, guys. Honestly, it's not like I don't expect you all to know it, right? I didn't know it myself. I understood Islam much late, really late, mashallah, and just got into it, when I was like in high school and stuff. Trust me, I think in English like you guys, so I need an English translation. If it says hijrah, I have no idea what that means. So the word itself means migration. The word itself means migration, okay? To move from one place to another. That's why the sister who said pilgrimage, and someone said travel, you guys are exactly on point. You got the meaning down. The word though actually accurately means migration, okay? So write it down, jot it down somewhere. It's good. Okay, so the Prophet ﷺ was forced out of Mecca and he had to migrate to Medina, right? This is the thing. People say Islam is a violent religion. But if you look at the reality of Islam, the Prophet ﷺ for 13 years of his life being a prophet, he was being tortured and abused and persecuted. There was a lot of difficulty that the Prophet ﷺ went to. He never lifted a finger against anyone, okay? He was such a kind individual. And finally, what happened was Meccans made it so severe, they're ready to kill the Prophet ﷺ. He actually had to get out of Mecca and go to Medina. That's called a hijrah. And so that migration, the hijrah here, this was a very religious, it's a very rewarding act to move from one place to another just for Islam. So now all the companions in Mecca go to Medina. Okay, all the companions go from Mecca to Medina. Men, women, everyone goes. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ has to leave too. He also has to go. He takes only one companion with him. He only takes one friend with him. Who's that friend that he took with him? Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Umar radiallahu anhu said Umar radiallahu anhu is the second greatest man in Islam. He said, if I could trade my entire life for one night of Abu Bakr, I would trade him for that night that he went with the Prophet ﷺ with the Hijrah. He said that worship or that acceptance he got from Allah, I would trade everything that I'm doing in my life just to get that night. Okay, so this is how extraordinary Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu is. So does anyone have any questions about that? Is that clear?
Questions? Yeah, questions? You guys online people, you have questions? You don't really have to shy. If you have questions, ask questions. You know, the Arabs used to have like this saying, "Al-mustahi wal-mustakbiru la yata'allamani abada." The person who just thinks that they're too old or they're just too shy, they would never learn, right? So don't shy away from questions. Don't try to be like, okay, I'm too old to ask these questions. Don't say that. Obviously, a lot of the ulama, they learn Quran and the late. Question.
So just a couple of more points. If there are no questions, it's fine. That's not a big deal, inshallah. Allah make it easy for all of you. I know it's probably like afternoon Saturday. It's like, man, I gotta go play my video games when I get home or something like that. I don't know. Allah make it easy for you all. So mashallah, Allah reward you for your sacrifice. I know it's not easy to listen to this old uncle from Massachusetts speaking to you, mashallah. Barakallahu feek. I'm talking about myself, not Sheikh Abdul Qadir, of course. Okay. So the Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, just giving you just a couple more things about him. Just write these things down, please. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he is the first Khalifa, the first Caliph after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I just want to give you just a brief bio about him. You should know about him, right? So he is the first Khalifa after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so what that means is that the entire ummah agreed, or they all came together and said that this is the man who will lead us after the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. They trusted him so much, they said that he can lead us in all of our worldly affairs. So it was a big responsibility. In the life of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so number one was that he is the first Khalifa after the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, first Caliph. Second thing is that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, in his lifetime, he compiles the Quran. Okay, you want to remember this. We say this, the Quran is preserved, and we mean it when we say it. In the time of the Prophet ﷺ, all the ayats of the Quran were written down. The one to put into a book form was Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Okay, just to give you a perspective here, just to understand this a little better, is that the Bible, it is written in about 50 to 150 years after Jesus's, they say his death. We don't believe he died, of course, right? Isa alayhi salam. They say that the Bible came down 50 to 150 years afterwards. The Torah, which people normally think that it was preserved right away, it wasn't preserved right away. It took about 1,000 years to put into book format. It took about 1,000 years. If you count it accurately, it's about 1,300 years. Okay. The Quran was compiled within a matter of 1 or 2 years. The Quran was compiled within a matter of 1 or 2 years. So this is the remarkable aspect about your book, and you should remember it. When you're a Muslim, that means you are proud. You know that what I'm doing is the real stuff. All you guys are all okie dokie artichoke people. Me, mashallah, I know what I'm doing. Okay, so that Quran was preserved, was put into book form by Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. And the last thing that I need you all to remember is that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu passes away 2 years after the Prophet ﷺ. He doesn't live very much longer. Okay, and he's buried where? Does anyone know where he's buried?
Where is Abu Bakr buried?
Is it?
Nobody knows? Where was he buried? Somebody says Makkah, Sheikh.
Where is the Prophet ﷺ buried?
In the Qurba, or like what's that? The Qurba. Kaaba, yeah.
Not in the Kaaba. Not in the Kaaba. That's a very good guess, though. Okay, so we have two options, right? One guy said Makkah. I told you it's not Makkah. So what's the other place?
Medina.
Medina. That's what we're talking about, mashallah. So the Prophet ﷺ, he was born in Makkah. He passed away in Medina. Okay. So the Prophet ﷺ, he is buried in a spot in Medina, right next to the masjid. If you ever go for, inshallah, Allah take you all for Umrah and Hajj, inshallah, and you'll see it. You'll see the grave of the Prophet ﷺ. Right next to him is Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Right next to him is Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Again, Prophet ﷺ is buried in Medina. Right next to him is Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Okay. If you are getting the spot next to the Prophet of Allah, you are a big man. MashaAllah. Allah Ta'ala loves you a lot. Okay. And that's what Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu received. His life was all about following the Prophet ﷺ. If you want to say what was the distinguishing characteristic of him, his life was, how can I be like the Prophet ﷺ? As much as whatever he did, I want to do the same thing. And so kids have their role models in life. Someone wants to be like Jeff Bezos or whatever, or Elon Musk or whatever. You know, people love these people because they make so much money. And I say, MashaAllah, barakallahu feek, may Allah give you the best, give you the more dunya, akhir, or whatever. But I want to be like the Prophet ﷺ. If you're talking about the greatest, most successful man in all of history, it is the Nabi of Allah because he was successful in the worldly terms and on hereafter terms. So you got to think about that. And the Prophet Abu Bakr was a man whose life was, how can I be like the Prophet? So you and I should think about that too, about our lives. How much we emulate him, how much we practice like him, how much we live like him. That's a real person who practices the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah. May Allah give us all tawfiq, inshallah. So that's one sahabi. We'll spend one more time. We'll do a little bit more. We're going to just cover Umar radiallahu anhu as well, and then we'll be finished with that, inshallah. Okay. So let's read number 6. Can we get another student? You guys are doing a great job, by the way. And this long distance stuff, you're doing great. Go ahead.
Question number 6, I'm going to give it to the boys. So I'm going to give the
What is the nickname of Umar ibn al-Khattab and Abu Hafs?
Yes, so that's his. I told you that each one has a title or a nickname, like Abu Bakr and Abdullah. We said Abu Quhafa is Uthman. So Umar radiallahu anhu's title or name was Abu Hafs. Okay, it translates to the father of a lion. If you're talking about like if Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was a very soft and gentle person, Umar radiallahu anhu was the strong hand, the strong man of the Prophet ﷺ. If you're talking about the right hand man of the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Bakr, his second right hand man is, or his left hand guy is Umar radiallahu anhu. Okay, so he's a ferocious man. He's a strong man. He's someone so intimidating, so powerful. You know that people used to. They said that if Umar radiallahu anhu walked on one side of the road, and Shaitan was walking down the rock, and he saw Umar, he would cross the street. Okay. You know, subhanAllah. So Allah Ta'ala give us tawfiq, you know, mashallah, he was an amazing person as well. So that's question number 6. Can we get number 7?
Yes, yes, number 7, I'm going to invite Rahma, who is online. Rahma, go ahead.
Who is Al-Faruq? Answer, he is Umar ibn al-Khattab. May Allah be pleased with him.
Very good, mashallah. Excellent job. His title is Al-Faruq. His title is Al-Faruq. Okay. And Faruq means a good translation for this for you guys is the decider. Okay. The decider. There are more like fancy words in English, but it's okay. We'll use an easy word. The one who separates between truth and falsehood. The one who separates between truth and falsehood. I apologize. My son is running around. So Faruq is the one who can distinguish between both. Basically, what happens is Umar radiallahu anhu, he accepts Islam. Okay, write this down. He accepts Islam 6 years after the Prophet comes with his prophethood. So basically, 6 years after the Prophet says he's a prophet, he accepts Islam. It's slightly different from other Sahaba. It's very different from other Sahaba. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu accepts Islam right away. Ali radiallahu anhu accepts Islam right away. Uthman accepts Islam right away. You know, a whole bunch of people accepting Islam. But Umar radiallahu anhu, he actually has a delay. He accepts 6 years later. Now, by him accepting 6 years later, you think that this person would fall behind, right? Because we think that too. It's like, wow, I'm so old now. I can't study Islam. I can't be a person who's a good Muslim because I'll be falling behind. You're not falling behind. You'll never fall behind. The only one who will make you fall behind is the fact that you and I are not doing effort. Allah will give you based on your effort. So Umar radiallahu anhu, he actually, even though he accepts Islam so much later, he actually jumps ahead of everyone and becomes the second greatest person in Islam. Okay? So I want you to keep that in mind. What happens when he accepts Islam? Before that, the Muslims were so scared to pray in the Kaaba area. Imagine that. It was once upon a time where even in Mecca, Muslims could not pray their prayers in front of the Kaaba, which is the holy house, right? The sacred house in Mecca. Keep that in mind, right? It's crazy. So at that time, it was so scary for any of them because they were worried they might be killed, beaten, or abused if they were to go into that area. So Umar radiallahu anhu comes to the Prophet after he accepts Islam. It's a great story. I'll tell you probably next time. Umar radiallahu anhu, when he accepts Islam, he goes to the Prophet ﷺ, check this out, and he tells the Prophet ﷺ, says, "O Messenger of Allah, are we not on the truth and aren't they all on the falsehood? Are we all on the right way and they're on the wrong way?" And the Prophet says, "Yes, of course." So then the Abu radiallahu anhu says, "So why are we scared to pray in the Kaaba area? Why are we scared to pray in the Kaaba area?" So then he tells the Prophet, "If you give me permission, I want to take them and I'll pray salah with them in the masjid area." And so the Umar radiallahu anhu takes one line of Sahaba, and before him takes Hamza, who's the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ. I'm sorry, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ. So Umar and Hamza go and take 2 rows of companions of Muslims, and they go straight into the Kaaba area, and in front of all the enemies of Islam, they pray their salah. And so from that day forward, the Sahaba say, from that day forward, the Muslims were completely allowed to pray in the Kaaba area because Umar was so brave. That's where he got his title from, Faruq. That's where his title came from, Faruq, is that he was the one who was able to show everyone what's the truth, the decider between truth and falsehood. Okay, is that clear for everyone? Does that make sense, the story? Okay, we'll just do just 2 more questions and we'll be done, inshallah. Okay, so let's get one more person for 8 and one more person for 9.
Okay, so question 8, I'm gonna give it to her name. Okay, right?
Who was the one who decided the use of Hijri calendar? He was Umar ibn Khattab. May Allah be pleased with him.
Question number 9, I'm gonna give it to Sally.
May Allah be pleased with him.
Excellent job, perfect. So I want you to star 9 because it'll make a lot more sense when we actually talk about Abu Ubaidah. You're not going to understand if I explain it to you now. You'll be like, what the heck just happened? So just start it right now. We'll come back to this question. Number 8, though, we'll finish today, which is that who's the one who decided the use of the Hijri calendar? So we use a specific calendar in Islam. If you probably noticed, we're in year 1442. And it's a little bit ahead of the Gregorian calendar, or a little bit behind the Gregorian calendar, because we're all basing it off a very important date. It's and inshallah, I hope one day you guys get a good explanation about our calendar, because everything about Islam has a purpose. It's something really amazing about our religion, is that everything we're doing has a purpose and some understanding, some deep thing behind it. And it's always important that we learn it and study it, okay? So the first one to decide the use of the Hijri calendar was Umar radiallahu anhu. So he tells everyone that the way to settle our dates, to make our calendar, they gave up a couple of ideas. So one of the ideas came because they had to decide how to make your calendar, okay? When you're deciding to make it off a calendar, you have to pick a specific date, right? And so, for example, we use the Gregorian calendar, which really doesn't mean anything. The month January is from the god Janus, which is the Roman god who has 2 faces, right? It's totally unlike not worshiping Allah Ta'ala. The day of the last day is the 31st. They try to connect Jesus's birth on the 25th, which they completely messed up because they're trying to end it. They say what AD, which is like after death, right? That was their idea behind it. And it didn't really work out the way they wanted it to, because if you say Isa passed away and he was born on the 25th, and then the 31st, what does that have to do with it, right? So there are a lot of issues with our calendar. When it came to the Muslim calendar, though, they had a couple of options. So Umar sat down and said, how should we start our calendar? What should be the first month? What should the year be based off of, et cetera, right? So certain people said, like, what would you think? Like, someone said, let's make it off the birth of the Prophet ﷺ. Umar said that is not a good idea, because it would seem like we're like the Christians then. We don't want to do that. Because the same way they tried to start their year off of Isa's birth, we don't want to do the same thing. Same thing, the next thing happened was someone said, let's make it off the death of the Prophet ﷺ. We'll do it on the day that he passed away, either the birth or the death, right? And Umar radiallahu anhu said that's also a very it's not a good idea as well, because the worst day of our lives was when the Prophet ﷺ passed away. Why would we want to remember that every year, right? So then someone gave the suggestion and said, how about we make it off the hijrah, the migration of the Prophet ﷺ, because that was the time when everything changed. That was the time when Muslims were able to practice the religion openly, proudly, and happily. And so Umar radiallahu anhu wanted that the hijrah be remembered every single year, because Muslims should remember that change can happen from Allah. No matter what situation you're in, no matter what problem you're in, change will happen from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so if you forget it, every year that the calendar comes up again, the next Hijri calendar, remind yourself the same way things change for the better from Makkah to Medina, same thing will happen for every Muslim in this world. Things will go for the better, inshallah. The beautiful reason for why we start the year like that. And Umar radiallahu anhu is the one who decided that. Okay? So we'll leave it there for today. We're already at our end of our time, mashallah. I hope if you have any questions, please let me know. You're always free to, inshallah, ask, not a big deal.
Jazakallahu Kheyr, Sheikh, for that wonderful presentation and the important information that you have given us about the Sahaba of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So we thank you for your time. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll see you on next Saturday. I hope everything works out fine. Jazakallahu Khairan, Sheikh. We'll see you, inshallah. Those of you who are online, please don't go away. Don't go away. We're just going to come back 3 o'clock, inshallah ta'ala. I'm going to say a little bit, few things, inshallah, before we have so, Sheikh, thank you so much. We will see you, inshallah ta'ala, on next Saturday, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakallahu Khair, Sheikh.
Please make dua for us, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Inshallah. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.